Greetings, Wolf Pups. Lord Von Wolf coming at you for another episode of Noob Sauce. A quick disclaimer, while recording this episode, the audio kind of got screwed up. So I'm having to do a voiceover on this episode. Be warned, it may not match what's going on. Alright, so here we are over in our spawn base underground and stuff. And what I wanted to do was behind the scenes is create a tunnel all the way to that desert village, which you see right now. This is the village I started. It's just right behind the one farm here, and it goes all the way to the desert village. And while digging, I found a mine shaft. So, of course, being a mine shaft, I had to go and explore it. That mine shaft then broke into a cave system. And within that cave system, I found our first dungeon, which is what you see here, and it happens to be a skeleton dungeon. The device you see in front of you is a spawner. This is the device that spawns a specific mob that is inside that spawner, and in this case it happens to be a skeleton. Now there's other kinds. You have a zombie and you have a spider that's in the overworld. That's what you have here. That's those devices sitting right there. And you can tell a dungeon because it's surrounded by the cobblestone walls and the mossy cobblestone, which is the green cobblestone bricks you see standing right there. Alright, so basically I found this. I wasn't recording at the time. I wasn't expecting to find it. I had been looking for one for quite a while. And in my excitement, I kind of opened the chest up that were in here. There's usually 2 single chests in here with some goodies in it. Occasionally you'll find just one. Once in a blue moon, you won't get anything. But there's usually treasure chests in there. There wasn't really much of anything in there, but to speak of. But where that skeleton spawner happens to be is right next to the desert village. Surprisingly enough, I never thought I would see one that close to where I've been exploring. So here's that desert village that I had, quote, kidnapped, end quote, the villagers from. As you can see, there's still some here, and some golems that are pretty well beaten up. And that hole right here, this is where that long tunnel comes out to. And the house that's right next to it, I eventually commandeered as my personal house. And, why not, right? So anyway, that spawner is basically over just where that hill was. And if you look, it's fairly close to the 63 level of the world. That's where the world level is, where the water and oceans are all and stuff like that. So now, as you can see, the spawning box, okay, is 3 above the spawner or 4 from the floor. And the same thing happens that it's 4 out from the spawner itself. So 1, 2, 3, 4 if you look, okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually carve out a 5th one so I can put up new walls. That's on all 4 sides. That's the entire spawning box of any spawner in the overworld. And here is the completed dig out of the initial spawn box. So where you see the torches in the corners here, that is the entire spawn box from the floor to the ceiling and from all 4 sides. See, 1, 2, and 3 above the spawner. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the spawner of the dungeon area itself. That's the entire spawn box of which these specific mobs will spawn in. Now, they only spawn in that location. They won't spawn outside of it. They are not part of the world mob cap. They are part of their own mob cap within that spawn box section. Okay. So, as long as you're within 16 blocks in a spheroid connection to this spawner, skeletons will spawn within that spawn box as long as you do not have any lighting. Now, as you can see, I have lighting here, 4 torches on the spawner itself, and the 4 torches in the corner. But if you want to put them in the corner, you can put them in where I was just tapping with the shovel. That disables all of the possibility of spawning from this spawner because there's no 7 or below light levels of that spawner right there. Alright, and I'm not going to want these torches in here for lights. So I need to set up a redstone mechanism that will turn on and off this spawner. And to do that, I have to put in a redstone lighting system that will turn on and off the spawns of this dungeon box that I keep talking about here. Alright, so I need to set up lights so it goes from the spawner to the ceiling, lights on the walls, and lights in the ceiling. And that will take away the ability for the spawner to spawn anything by just using one simple switch. Okay, so essentially I have to get in here and get the walls in place and start digging out into the ceiling a little bit there. So let's get going on this a little bit. And as we get ready to work, as you can see, I put up a little base section here. Alright, now the concept I was coming up with, since we're in a desert area, I figured I will use sandstone as like my main building material and stuff like that for this spawner. Normally I would just use brick and close it in, but I'm going to create a window into the spawner itself so we can actually see what's going on the inside. So I had to change up a little bit, and I'm going to actually decorate the spawn area itself. Alright. So now what I'm doing right now is I'm creating these things called redstone lamps. To do that, you have to have glowstone and redstone dust. You put the glowstone in the middle, 4 redstone around it in the position that you saw, and that creates those redstone blocks. Now this right here happens to be a chiseled sandstone block. Alright, it's a decorative sandstone block that you can use. Now to form those, you have to use 2 slabs of sandstone, or you can use the stone cutter, which I will demonstrate a little bit later. Now the block that I set down there, that is the cut sandstone, which is a much more smoother block than the regular sandstone block. Okay, now each block has a different texture to it that changes the look. Since we're actually designing this system, we were going for a specific look. I was looking at a much more cleaner way of looking at things. Now see, you can either use the stone cutter, or you can craft this stuff in your own tab by placing, now if you look, the regular sandstone, I'm moving a little so quickly here, has a textured look, and I don't want that. If you place the 4 sandstone in the 2x2, you can get the cut stone. Now what I'm working on right here are the slabs, or half slabs, for these particular products. You can also make walls. Alright, unfortunately here, for some reason I use the cut sandstone. It's supposed to be sandstone slabs. There you go. And then there it is, which is the chiseled block. That's the one that has the creeper face on it. You can also make stairs and walls and stuff like that out of these textured blocks and everything like that. But everything begins with the sandstone block. And to get the sandstone block, you can take 4 sand and craft it into a single sandstone block. And that's what the textures look like. You have the cut sandstone, which has a nice smooth top to it. You have the chiseled sandstone, which has that nice smooth top to it, but the creeper face on it. And then you got the sandstone, which has that grizzly type look to it. Alright, so first thing I want to do is I'm going to place a block on top of the spawner because I don't want any of the spawns getting stuck on the spawner. So I'm going to dig out that hole. I'm going to put a temporary block up there, which you'll see why much later. And then on top of the spawner goes, I'm going to put the chiseled block. And then on top of that chiseled block, I'm going to take 2 of those redstone lamps and place them right above, just like so. Okay, and that's going to help where I've got the 4 torches around the spawner. That's going to help alleviate the lighting in a diamond formation from that spawner. Remember that lighting goes up and down. Now what I'm going to do is here is 4 blocks from the spawner where the walls go. I'm also going to put redstone lamps diagonally across from where the spawner is on the spawner's level. Just like what the torches would do, which we can now take away. It is taking away more of that potential spawning within the spawn box. So now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to finish up putting in the last 4 lamps in. You're going to go to the corners, diagonally one across into the spawner, and chisel one out of the ceiling and put your last 4 redstone lamps into the ceiling. And all of that put together, okay, prevents the entire spawn box from functioning. Do you technically need the ones in the ceiling? No. But I do it just to ensure that I want complete and total light in every possible spawn box of that spawner. So that's why I put it in this formation, just like so. It's easy enough. You set it up to a single switch, and it turns either the lights on or the lights off, and that's how you can control how often the spawner works for you. And yeah, I got to cut all that stuff out. That's where I'm going to make the front of the spawner is going to be right there. That's the front of this whole design that I'm going to use. Alright, so next I am going to make a lever. A lever is a redstone component which uses a stick and a cobblestone in that formation. That is a power source for redstone devices such as these redstone lamps. Placing it on the redstone lamp, alright, will power that block when I trigger the switch. That's what I'm discussing right now, actually. And click it, and there it goes. It turns the lamp on. Off. I'm playing with it. So, now that I have a way of generating a redstone signal to the lamp, of course I'm digging in the wrong spot, I need to then move that signal from where that switch is to the other lamps. And now to do that, I have to set up a redstone wire that goes from that switch to the other lamps. I generally like to put my redstone on top of polished diorite. Don't ask me why. I just do. Alright, so I'm going to take the switch off, and I'm going to put a block on that lamp, and put the switch back on. It's a lever. I keep calling it a switch, but because that's essentially what it is. But it's a lever, and then I got to put that block so it hits that lamp. And once I turn that on, okay, that lever is going to power the diorite block, which will then bud power the redstone lamp. And then what I have to do is I have to bring the power from that redstone lever, which is in the block, to the other diorite block that will bud power the redstone lamp. That one is connected to, and that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, you do not need to put the redstone on top of the block, because the redstone goes to the block and then powers the block. Now all I'm doing is also I'm putting up torches so it lights. Now see, now that diorite is bud powering that redstone. We have a level 15 starting on the wire going all the way to the other block that's going to bud power that lamp. See, 5, and then the block is level 4, bud powering the redstone lamp. The only problem is, if I put a redstone next to it, I'm not going to pull a signal out of that block. Even though that block is powered, I'm not going to pull out a signal. So, but we are going to set up another redstone wire to this one from that one, and what we're going to do is simply add another component that will draw that redstone signal out of that block and send it over to the next redstone lamp. Talking about the lighting of, remember I discussed how lighting will go a certain distance in a diamond formation. That's why this functions in the way it does, because it still fills every hole, even though they're adjacent instead of in the corners. Remember, light will travel 6 blocks. Okay, well, I'm getting ready to make a repeater, which you've seen me make before. 2 redstone storages. It's going to be 3 blocks of stone and a redstone dust right there. Okay, that is the device that we're going to use to bring out the power from the block here notice as soon as I set it down, it's already grabbing that signal out of that block and re-energizing it to a full strength 15. We're going to then send that wire all the way over, like we just did with the first one, into the block, and it powers that lamp. We're going to have to repeat the same process from the last lamp to get to, from the third lamp to the last lamp. So let's set that up. Now the reason I did not go into the lever to the last lamp, alright, is because I'm going to have a way of delivering these skeletons. I could drop them, because we're so high up, I can actually just drop them right from where they are and just collect the arrows and the bones from that. But I don't want to do that. I want to make this into an XP farm. So I have to bring the wiring around the entire build and leave that corner so I can shunt those skeletons up so I can, use them as XP or as dead drops. Okay, now that's the entire bottom of the floor lit up. And there's a different thing we have to do to get to do the ceiling lights, but I have to get the walls and the ceiling in place. See, now I don't need the torches that I wanted, because the torches on the spawner and the lights, the lamps, are now preventing anything from spawning from floor level. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to bring in the idea that I was going with, which is the sandstone look into the ceiling. I'm going to cut that ceiling down. It's not going to be stone. It's actually going to be converted over to a sandstone design. Here we are with the roof and 2 blocks above cut out so I can get up on top to work with the redstone. And as you can see, that's where the lamps are still in place, but all the stone has been cut away. And that's what the smooth sandstone looks like in texture. That's the regular sandstone texture. And the stairs, using sandstone stairs, has that rough texture type look. That, including the bottom there if you look, that will be hidden, most of it, by the way of using the cut sandstone in the look as you see. The only spots you're going to see is a little bit of a lip of that staircase. As you can see, they're upside down. All right, let's get up on top and place this stuff in so I can show you how I do it. Okay, so we're just going to place it in the cut sandstone so we have a nice smooth floor of the ceiling. And I'm going to use these staircases upside down. That is a right side up stair. That is an upside down stair. To place it, you simply hit towards the top of the block and you place just like a Lego block, and it turns it upside down. Now to get a little turn, you're going to literally physically turn your body, place the stair, and if you look, it takes away part of it and gives you like a little nub section. Okay, so but I want to continue that around, so I'm going to place another stair here. I'm going to turn myself again because I want to bring that little lip around this lamp. So I'm going to do the same thing, place upside down, and you notice now it turns that block around, and then to get the little lip again, I'm going to place one more block, and that'll turn that little spot in the top part of the stairs. Now here we are. Here's the first block with the nib, the next block with the L shape that turns, okay, back into the little nib with a straight along block, and that's what helps to create that particular look using the stair blocks. Now here's that center part. I'm going to create the same type of look around this double lamp system, and I can get the curved blocks in the corners by doing this, placing the first 2 down and then placing the corners in, and I get a nice little build right around the lamps. And then I'm going to put the cut sandstone to finish off the look, and then get the other one in, and that's basically what the ceiling is going to look like. I kind of ran into the lamp there. It's going to look like it's just a nice little extra design feature, and it just gives you just one simple look. Now I'm working on the walls, and here I incorporated acacia logs into the design. All right, now I went with one of 2 designs here, and this is when you're working on stuff, you have to kind of compare and see what you like. and I wasn't sure which wall design I was going to go with, either the one on the right or the one on the left. And now the look in the middle that's what I based everything on when I was like, okay, I'm using acacia wood. I was going to originally use it in the corners, but no, I decided to do it here in the middle and use the chisel stone as additional reference with the acacia logs. So that changed my whole thing. Now I went with cut stone and smooth stone. You get smooth stone by cooking sandstone. All right, and in the first formation on the right, and then in the second formation on the left, it just reversed where the blocks were placed. Now, personally, I like the one that's on the left. All right. Now, this is the smooth stone that you get from cooking sandstone. All 6 sides are all smooth. They have color variations of beige, I guess you would call it, yellow, whatever, and that's what got me like, okay, I like that look on the left because it just seems a little bit more in line with what I'm trying to do. The one on the right, I don't know. I mean, it's okay. It's just not fitting what I had envisioned for this. So I decided to go with the one that was on the left and got all the sides in, and the viewing window that we're going to be able to use to look into the farm once we have it going. Now, I'm going to use a floor here, but to get down to it, I'm going to use half stone slabs, so I need to lower the section that powers these lamps. Now notice, I put down a redstone dust underneath the block that has the lever on it, and it's being powered. That's one of the things you can do with a lever. You can power a block, and it will power a dot of redstone under it, and you need to bring that wire to whatever device you would want to at this point. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just simply setting up a slightly lower deck for my redstone here where the floor is going to be. And notice that the redstone wire goes up the block, which is no problem. And the only difference is it's 1 power less, but it's still within the 15 that powers this entire system. All right, so we need to work on the slabs that we're going to use, because it's going to be a lower half slab block that prevents anything from spawning, at least in where the floor is going to be. So that's going to be placed right there, which is just above the redstone. That's why I had to lower that redstone wiring down 1 block. And as you can see, it doesn't interfere with the redstone signal in any way. And I don't have to worry about using lighting within the room that we can view the spawner from. But I am going to want to get rid of that diorite block. I don't want that diorite block because it doesn't match anything in the design. Alright, so I'm going to bring the signal here, all the way over here, and then I'm going to bring it up so I can get to the lighting above the spawner. Let's chisel at that block. Now, by placing blocks with a space in between, I can use redstone torches. Now notice that since that block is powered, the redstone torch is depowered, which does not power the block above it. All right, this is called a torch tower, and this is how we're going to power or depower the lighting up on top. Now watch what happens here. Now, because the redstone torch is powered now, the torch that is attached to the block above it is depowered. Now that we have depowered this redstone torch, the torch above it is now powered. I kind of got myself in a bit of a thing there. I gotta jump up. Okay, now we get up on top. We're gonna go over to that section where that tower comes up, the torch tower, and that diorite block you just saw right there, put the dust down, becomes a signal strength of 15 because it's powering the block below it. So that block is now the power source for a redstone, and that is going to power all of the lamps that are up here on this spawner. Making sure to keep my lighting up here so when the lamps are not lit, nothing will spawn up here. Now we're going to take the redstone wiring and go across to the middle section of the lamp, and this is where I discover something a little interesting. It's not actually carrying the signal past or down to the lamps. I'm trying to figure out why, what did I mess up? It turns out I didn't actually mess something up. For some reason, the signal will not go down the back side of a staircase. I'm not sure why that is, because we can attach torches and stuff to everything like that. And as you'll see, we can actually power wiring up the back of the stair, but not down. So the transparency of the back still holds non-ability to send power. As you can see, by placing a whole block, a non-transparent block in, we're able to get the signal down to the lamps and continue that signal all the way to the other side. Now, since I am using upside down stairs instead of regular blocks, I actually have to move the wiring to the lamps themselves. Otherwise, I could leave it where I had finished, and the solid blocks would bud power the lamps, and the torches could stay where they are. But since I'm using upside down stairs, I have to move the torch and add one more dot of redstone on the lamps themselves to get them to be powered, just like so. Redstone can be a little trickier sometimes, and I really got to try to see if I can figure out that whole back of the stair thing going down. I'm not sure if it's intended to be that way, or maybe it's an unintended bug, I guess, because it goes up the stair and powers it. Why won't it go down? Anyway, and now if we go down, you'll see that every one of these lamps is lit. Okay, so what happens is the middle section, I'm trying to discuss what I'm doing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, because it's got to be aesthetically looking, and I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? So I'm going to put a full block there. I'm going to put my stairs so that they turn and have that little nub thing for aesthetic reasons. There's no practical reason for it. Like that. And I was like, okay, that's a nice look, and that's what I went with. So, as you can see, when the top of the center lamp is powered, it bud powers the lamp below it, so that is how the two redstone lamps are generated. Okay, because everything's based on bud powering. And I'm just fixing it there. So everything now is fully lit, and it will function off of that one lever. All of the lamps will either turn on at the same time, all lamps will turn off at the same time. And as you can see, we still have a little bit of power to the redstone itself, which is fine, because you can do up to 15 in any direction. And when we do the T, it maintains the same power level from where the top of the T is. So if the top of the T was, say, a 5, and you went right and left, both right and left would be power level 4. So we don't have to worry about extending the power level. Now that we have all the lamps lit, we can remove the last of the remaining of the torches, and the room is completely unspawnable at this point until those lamps are turned off. All right. So yeah, right here, this is actually where I'm talking about the bud powering of the lamp. Bud powering is a big factor within the Java edition of redstoning. That's how we get certain components to function in the way that we do. Lamps and pistons are two of the things we use bud powering for a lot within our designs and stuff like that. Alright, so now this is the entire spawn box, as you can see, and now I have to dig out the floor, which is what I did in this segment. I dug down 4 total blocks from the spawner. Technically, you only need to do 2 from the spawner to get the skeletons to go underneath. But if they jump up, because I'm going to use water to push them, they can prevent the spawner from spawning new ones in, because their head or body is indicating that they're still within the spawn box. So you want to drop them at least minimum of 3 from the spawner. I usually generally choose either 4 or 5 levels. That guarantees that they are out of the spawn box, so the spawner can spawn in new skeletons or zombies or spiders or whatever it is that we're using. Alright, and that's exactly what I did here. So I'm 4 blocks below. I replaced the floor, and everything within there can now spawn and fall down below the spawn box and come out of the mob cap for that spawner. And then I'm going to use water to push them to the edge, where I drop them down into a tunnel that pushes them further to my water elevator I'm going to build. So you do that by placing a water in the corner, count over 2 blocks, place another water source, and you create an infinite water source in the middle. Okay, that's exactly what that is. And we just repeat this until we reach the end. 2, place. 2, place. And then the last. Place it in the corner. And your whole entire back wall is now a movable water source. So it pushes everything forward, and it pushes it 8 total blocks. That brings you to the edge. The 9th block, as you can see, is dug out so that when the skeletons fall and get pushed to the corner, they're going to now be pushed from here, where they fall down 2 blocks and can't get back into the water pushing mechanism, down to where I'm going to use a bubble vader. Okay, this is simply where we're going to bring them up and drop them down from a height. All right, now, to get this to accomplish, this is where they're going to go up. You have to build this section in a very specific way. You know, water only travels 8 blocks. So I move them, the water source, 2 blocks initially, 1, 2. Then I'm going to drop down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Brings us all the way to where the bubble vader begins. The only thing is, now once we get to the end, you have to drop them one more time to help push them on top of the sandstone that we're soul sand that we're going to use as the elevator. And then we use a wall, which actually steps them up a half a step, and then we'll push them further a half a step into the water that will be the bubble vader. Okay. It's here. We're going to put in. That's where the soul sand is. And as you can see, as I move forward, I go up the wall, then I go up the sandstone. I don't jump. That's not me jumping. I'm just literally moving forward. And the water flow pushes you forward. Or at least in the direction that it's going in. And that, that's why I say forward. Okay, so that's why you need to make sure you drop down 1 block before the wall, put the wall in place, and then chisel out a spot in the back so that the water that comes down for the elevator that goes on top of the soul sand helps to pull the mob in. That's that block right there. Okay, now that whole system is designed to keep, and I'm talking, and yeah, so don't mind. This system is designed to get them through without having the water that's in the bubble vader come back in on this slide. Essentially is what it really is. It's a slide, the pushing mechanism. So to hold that back, you're going to use open gates. Nothing gets stuck on those gates, but everything moves freely between them, and it holds back the water. All right, so now we drop the water down. As you can see, it's pushing me. And then it's going to go into where that soul sand is going to be placed. And you'll notice I'm being pushed up on the wall. I'm not moving. This is the water doing this to me. Okay. Now I'm going to place down a temporary block because I need to use a mechanism to get water blocks into the chute. Of course, I have to build a chute too. So now I have to see where I am coming from to drop down a certain site. And okay, so the big thing is we got to figure out a way to get these guys out of here. And as I said, the bubble vader is what we're going to use to get them out of this entire system. And they're going to go up the side of the dungeon box right from here, up somewhere above the desert level. And then I'm going to have to drop them. So I have to decide where I'm going to drop them from, and I generally like to be in line with where the spawner is. That's where my drop chamber is going to be. And you have to drop them 23.5 blocks to instant kill them without any like armor or enchanted gear or anything like that. So essentially 24 blocks. So you figure 24 from where you currently are at. And as you see me jumping, I'm looking at the middle number, which is now currently saying 45. But when I jump up 1 block, it says 46. All right. So if I'm going to drop them 23 blocks, all right, that's going to be 69. But to ensure complete total death, it's going to be 70 that I have to drop them from. Okay, so it's 46 plus 24, which is equal to 70. That's the math on that. I gotta sleep here because the villagers are going to get eaten. That's kind of one of the downsides of being next to all the villages, and I want to make sure I keep these guys. Is I gotta keep sleeping, and I kept forgetting to do so. I got so involved in getting the build done. All right, so anyway, here we are, and I actually have to raise them above the floor that we currently have. As you can see, with here's the tall trees and stuff like that. But let's see where we actually have to go. All right, I'm going to pillar up here, and we're going to be at level 69. I actually go to level 70 to drop them because I moved the collection system one block higher, so I dropped them from level 70, not level 69. But you can see how tall I have to bring them up, and then push them over to where I'm going to put the drop chute into the entrance chamber to this XP farm. Okay. Yeah. So now, I'm looking at everything and just putting everything in my head and figuring out like the math and everything. Okay, I'm going to send them up here. I'm going to have to elve the tube so we can, get the water to come around, and then we're going to have to drop them and how far up I have to go and stuff like that. What I'm doing right now is I'm going to stain some glass black because I want the glass to have a black texture to it. And you do that by simply dyeing black glass just like this in the middle, and then you get 8, and you convert over ink sacs to get black dye. And that's what I use to make my window into the dungeon. Okay, getting rid of the kelp because I don't need the kelp anymore. And then just once again, I'm talking about getting the chute built. Now here I am actually working the chute, and I'm showing you how you can dig straight down. All right, so what you're going to do is, that's the middle. That's where they're going to either go up or go down. And then to be safe, what I'm going to do is I'm going to chisel out the blocks on all 4 sides of the one I'm standing on to make sure there's nothing below me like lava or a giant hole. And as you can see, I'm safe. I move to the edge so I can get, if the middle does drop out, I still come onto a block. And then I just put the walls in place so it looks nice. There's no reason for that. It's just me wanting to do that. And now here's the completed bubble vader, both where it comes up and where it drops. It drops on the right side right there, and it comes up here on the left side. And I put down a glass floor so I can watch them flow across if I want them to. So I have to get a water source in here to push them across this glass area to push them into the drop zone. So to get that water source in place, I have to put a temporary block in the hole. What I'm doing here is I'm creating a sandstone because I temporarily forgot a block. Anyway, so I have to, I need more blocks. I will, after all the videos done, I do fix this. So I need that there because I don't need the water flowing backwards. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to place, my parkour skills are terrible. Place a water source right here on top of this dirt block where the hole is that goes down, and that'll push the water source all the way over to the edge where they drop. Okay, now if you don't set this up as the 8th block being where they drop, you have to put up another open fence gate to prevent the water from going into the hole that drops them into. So I'm counting to show that I am now 8 blocks from where the water drops off the glass to the edge, and I don't need to put a fence gate there at all. It's, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. You can put a fence gate up there if you want anyway, or just make sure your count is proper. Now let's put down the water source, watch it flow. Okay, and as you can see, we're going to get pushed by the water flow here. I'm not sure if they're going to get stuck there or not. It doesn't seem to, but I might take that block out and change it. Now, as you can see, the water goes right up to the last glass block and stops. It doesn't go into the hole. That'll push the skeletons all the way to the drop point. And that's exactly what we want to do. So now to get the water to go down the chute so we can bring the bubbles up, we get rid of the temporary block and let the water go down. And as you can see, the dirt block went down because the water was pushing it downwards. All right. So now what we need to do is the water has to be source blocks. They can't be just flowing water because the bubbles won't function. Now the only, well, I shouldn't say not the only way, the best way to work that out is to use kelp. I mean, you can actually place every single water source by using buckets. We used to do this in the past, but ever since kelp came into existence, it helped us because kelp, once placed, will make every water block flowing into a water source block. Now to simply do that, that's why I have that temporary dirt block down there. And as you can see, the water's not flowing backwards, all right? There's no backflow into the slide, all right? So they will not get stuck when they get up to where these gates are located. And once we get on top of that section, that little hole that we chiseled out has the water flow going into it, so that when they get to that slot of water, it helps to pull them into the bubble invader itself. All right. So now what I'm going to eventually do here is I'm going to use the kelp. I'm going to swim up and hold my key down and place a piece of kelp in every single water block, and that will change every one of these flowing water into a water source block. That's a lot simpler than carrying 10 million buckets of water and doing it by hand, which is, like I said, what we used to do before we had kelp. So now what we need to do is take that dirt block out and switch it out for the soul sand block. And that'll also break the entire kelp line, so we don't have to worry about, getting it all back, because it'll take care of itself. I just have to get underneath, break the block. As you can see, it's all broken. Place the soul sand, and now we have our bubble vader. Okay, watch. Up we go. And there we are. We're at the top. I mean, that was almost instantaneous if you really think about it. That's how fast those bubble vaders work. Okay, and that's how we're going to get the skeletons up, moved across, and then drop down to where we can either collect their goodies or collect their XP. All right. So now we're down into the chamber where I'm going to collect them. And I set up a system so that it's either farmable or XP. All right, and that's what we were just looking at. Yeah, I'm sleeping again for the villagers. I'm trying to keep them, because until I build a breeder, that's the only place I have that's close enough to the spawn location that has villagers in it. So I'm trying to hold on to at least 2 of the guys. All right, so anyway, this is a sticky piston. I've showed you this before. Now, by switching the lever, the half slab moves off of the hopper, therefore instant killing the mobs as they fall down, because it takes away that half slab, which is a half point less of damage, and then they fall. That's how they instantly die. Of course, armor notwithstanding. In order to do that, you have to drop them 32 and a half or 33 blocks, because of the armor cost. And then you get into things like enchants and stuff like that. It just drop them 23 and a half, 24 blocks, and you'll be fine. Now, as you can see, as soon as they turn that lamps off, turn the system on, the skeletons form instantly, and they're already in the chute. There's a second set that has already formed. Since there's nothing in the spawner, it was able to spawn a second set, and as you can see, the first set has just landed, and there they are. That's the first 3 skeletons out of the entire farm. And as you can see, with the setup that I have here, punch, punch, and punch, single punch, they can't see me, so they can't hurt me. They can't, shoot me. And I do that by having a half slab where their bodies are, so they can't see me. If we look at it again, see right there, there's that half slab just above it where they can't see me. Now see, that guy with that skeleton, he would have survived. With the armor, he would have survived. So now let's go to instant kill. Now this lowers them a little bit more. There is a possibility for them to see you if you're close enough. Now see, look at that. You had 2 skeletons drop right there, and it was instant death. Okay, once again, armor withstanding. And that's basically the whole catch system, and that's how you can turn it, a collection of arrows and bones into an XP farm. Just a half slab and a sticky piston with a lever. You know, how much more easier can you get than a nice simple machine like that? And this system will continually spawn skeletons as long as you're within the range of the spawner. Remember, that's 16 blocks of that spawner in a spherical shape. That's up, down, and, you know, side to side, front, back, however you want to say it. All right, guys? I mean, you can't really get any easier than this as far as early game XP farms. And not only that, you get arrows and bones out of it. That's a huge, huge plus. You know, bones for me are a big thing because I use bone meal a lot. There's a lot of devices I use that makes that. And by using this half stone, half slabs, I don't have to worry about lighting, so I can have this glass here and we can look into the system and enjoy it. Nothing will attack me. Now, as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for supporting. You take care now. Bye.